Hello,
Hello,
everybody.
everybody.
This
This
is
is
Dazza Greenwood,
Dazza Greenwood, and we are at the MIT Media Lab now,
having
having a remarkable cascade array of
audio bounce
audio
back.
bounce
So I'll just
back.
take
So I'll just take
the
the
headphones
headphones
off
off
and
and
say
say
that this
that
is
this
the
is the
second
second
Napkins to
Napkins to
launch
launch
IAP
IAP
course.
course.
The
The
first
first
one
one
started
started
on
on
Tuesday
Tuesday at 2 p.m. and I think it ended, it's safe to say, Thursday at about 1:45 p.m. if you add up all the aggregate continuous hacking time. So we're going to have a couple of report outs that quickly went to Code for America Tuesday night and some updates on progress that we made setting up testnet and trying to do some integrations with GitHub and City Code. Today we've got some speakers
who will be joining us online and also in person. And we've got count maybe about 70 or 80 people that are going to be joining us online, and maybe 10 or 15 or so that'll be in the room on a somewhat staggered basis as we go forward. Next week we'll be joined by another batch of Sloan Fellows who've got a number of very interesting blockchain projects as well. So you'll be just stay tuned for that on our email list and on the Slack channel to learn more. But just when we do introductions, maybe Julia, you could mention the Just Paid one at least, because I know you're on that. Okay, great. So why don't we just start off quickly with a round of introductions, and this time I'm going to start with folks in the room as opposed to online, because I think people are trickling in online because we just got the link out. So just as a test, could I trouble you to use the mic and hold on 1 second. Actually, I'll try and do the second test. Great. Could you be our canary again, please, our audio canary? Hello. Could you switch to Hangout?
You switch to Hangout.
Getting sound. Can you hear? Can you hear any sound? Are you getting any sound?
Still reconnecting.
Yes. Are you seeing a green spike?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, great. So thank you for that. So we're running introductions, and we'll end with the speaker.
That'll be our segue into the concept.
Segue into who are you? And just a few words about your project. Thanks.
So I'm Julia. I'm actually a student at Wellesley College, and I got involved with this through the Future of Commerce class, which is this past fall, which focused on commercial applications of Bitcoin and lots of really great speakers. I connected with the Sloan Fellows, and we were working on a project called Just Paid, which in the future will hope to utilize blockchain aspects, but right now we're working on a centralized payment platform, so for like utilities, restaurants, everything, essentially all kinds of payments in an easy to use.
And how do you say it?
Just Paid.
Just paid.
Just Paid.
You know, you like this.
If you have
Where's the rent? Just paid.
yeah, Dazza's our spokesperson. He'll be like our main commercial person. So, yeah, if you have questions about that, we have questions about it.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Oh, and just one very quick thing just to add. Also, for all of you Sloan Fellows out there watching live and people watching this MRX on YouTube archive, this is your point person here to get organized with our Eduardo. So definitely the 4 teams that joined us in Brooklyn for sure, but also all of you that we're doing other stuff at the offsite and that have projects that want to join. Please reach out to Julia and she'll help you get set up into the system. We'll look forward to hacking with you. Thanks.
Yeah, another note. I'll be sending out an email schedule, one-on-ones with Dazza, so you'll be receiving an email from me shortly.
Thanks. Okay, who are you?
Hi, everyone. My name is Nathan Arula, and I'm the Director of Research for the Digital Currency Initiative here at the Media Lab. So my background,
I completed my PhD in systems here at MIT in distributed systems and databases. I'm really interested in this surge in decentralized infrastructure, and I'm excited to work on it. So if you want to talk about research projects that you're interested in working on, I'm happy to do so.
Hello, my name is James Damon. I'm a librarian for a software as a service startup, and also at one of Harvard's libraries. About 2.5 years, 2 years ago, something like that, I started going to Berkman events, and then it all took off from there, basically. I've been learning a lot about crowdsourcing, and I've actually worked with Hashim a little bit by contributing to this Infer Crowd Research Collective. And I see this sort of like blockchain and smart contract as a really important technology in sort of the future of labor and maybe a more liquid labor marketplace as well. So that's definitely what I'm interested in. And
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Hashim. I'm a political organizer in Washington, D.C. and also I'm a part of Stanford Crowd Research Collective. And I'm interested in blockchain technology.
I'm sorry, could you say a couple of words about your project idea with respect to media?
We're trying to decentralize how people sharing the news links online. That's all.
Okay, cool.
My name is David Warwick, and I'm working on a decentralized cloud storage platform. And the idea that you can put your data into the cloud without having to trust a particular provider.
Hi, my name is Stephen Harrington. I'm an ex-physicist interested in blockchains, have a fintech background, worked with lots of startups. A project that floated around with some people was to do an invention registry, sort of pre-patent invention registry, so that you can, I guess you'd call it like a provenance of ideas, and so collaboration and sharing with some cool features. So.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jonathan. I'm a lawyer, but also published a few software projects about crowdfunding. And I'm in Israel, from Israel, and I'm over there. I'm part of the Bitcoin embassy. And happy to be here. Could you close that? Yeah. I'm Frank. I'm a postdoc at Google, and I'm serious in chat.
Welcome.
My
name is Al. Is it working? It seems to be. I think so. Okay.
It's nice a long time ago. We're here at MIT, contrast, live stuff.
Fair.
Hi, my name is Simon Slitsky, and I've been embedded software developer for about 20 years. I have a computer science background. Okay, sorry. Okay.
A little up now.
Okay. Is it using my camera? Or?
Yeah, I just switched your camera.
Oh, okay. So should I start over? Hi, I'm Simon. Oh, now I can see myself actually. I'm Simon. I have computer science background as well. I've been embedded software developer in medical device space for about 20 years, and I switched full time to Bitcoin related. I sort of have a consulting company around Bitcoin called CoinGift, and I've been doing this for about 3 years now. And the project I'm working on is called Q&A Brainwall. It's just, if you know what Brainwall is, it's a way to store your personal private key rather in your brain without any material backup. So that's my project. Okay.
Greetings, I'm Bill Wendell from the Real Estate Cafe. I'm an MIT City Planning alum who works at the intersection of real estate, technology, and consumer advocacy. So I'm interested in a host of real estate use cases involving blockchain, and I'm excited that last night, as a ripple effect of this gathering, a blockchain and real estate meetup started in Washington, D.C. So we'll have a wide pool of ripples, hopefully in the future, that goes right to policymakers.
And Jim, can you please say a word about your project?
Right now we have the first rock we dropped in the water is called law.MIT from the unique identifier. It's not my phrase, it's the National Association of Realtors and a group they work with called the Real Estate Standards Organization, RESO, and there are a variety of files up on the wiki in the future Congress in November, and I'd be glad to share it. I think I've already shared it via Slack, but I can do it again, and there'll be a different file we can upload today as well.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brandon Marr. I'm media from my interests are in distributed systems, blockchain, and public governance, and that.
And he's the reason I'm here. We went to college together, and did some stuff together. He was in that master's student before he left. Introduced me to this candy shop, and I haven't been going to leave since then. So thanks again. Happy. Happy.
Yes, I'm Gabby. I'm in information systems computer, and I'm really interested as well as website and some different integrations partners. And I'm also going to follow parents' human business projects life system, which is to help develop children that have difficulties, and he has a school project and he needs it to be altered.
Could you tell me just one group people are online? That's what I'm going to say. I just want to turn off. Sure. Does somebody that is online will chime in and introduce themselves? How about Sven? Sven, do you want to introduce yourself? Just unmute yourself and bring it up. Or Leo. Wait, can you hear them? Okay, here's a thing.
Are other folks online having trouble hearing? I'm getting weird feedback from the room, and very dim voice.
Okay, great. Hey guys, sorry about that. Are you getting my audio in the room?
We're hearing weird echoes.
Okay, hold on. Does people in the room have? Everyone should have mute on if you're in the room and you're on Hangout. Or actually, everyone should have mute on. Okay, I just muted you, Julia. Okay, I think that was it. No, it wasn't. Okay, so everyone, please put your mute on.
Are those two mics?
Yeah. Okay, so everyone muted. Okay, great. So what I'm going to do is Bill. So much tremendous.
I'm muted in both regards. So I don't think you know your microphone. Your microphone's on speakers.
Go again?
Are your microphones on speakers?
Mine is sorry.
Now we hear nothing.
to be unmuted. Okay.
Oh, that's good.
Fantastic. Okay, everyone. So let's just pick it up from Sven. I think we were looking for Sven. If we, or is that right, Bill? Or is that who you have on your far left? Or how about Hector? Great. Yep. Great. So come off mute. And if you could just introduce yourself and a few words about your project, please.
So my name is. Oh, sorry.
Yep. You're good, Hector. We've got your sound.
Hi, my name is Hector de la Torre. My background is in computer science, and my primary area of interest is identity and access management.
Identity, terrific. And do you have any ideas for a project that you might do in the area of identity? You know, IAM?
I have some ideas, but nothing concrete yet.
Okay. Great. So there's a lot of interest in identity and access management at the Media Lab with respect to the blockchain. So look forward to hearing that. Great. And Jonathan Askin, we're going to come to you after we do the round, but not toward John. I think you've already introduced yourself. I'm just going from left to right on my mind, but if you could come off mute and just say hello, and if you have any further thoughts on what your project might be, we'd love to hear the updates this Tuesday.
Yeah, sure. Good afternoon, all. I'm really excited to be back to the second session. Hope you're able to hear me clearly.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah,
Yep.
perfect.
You're coming in well.
So I think it was a good first session. So looking forward to the session today. And still, I don't have a project in mind. As of now, I'm just a blockchain enthusiast. Looking forward to learn as much as possible, and then identify some use cases as we go along. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. John. Okay, Neha, we heard from Simon. We heard from Sven. I think you're up. If you could come off mute, please, and introduce yourself, that would be great.
Yes. Hello, Dazza.
Hello.
Hello, Jonathan. Thank you for the opportunity to participate. I think it's awesome. I have a commercial background, MBA from the University of Mannheim in Germany, since 20 years in tech. I'm doing consulting, and I have a professional background in mobile, so I worked for several years in Vodafone and T-Mobile. And I'm since 2014 really hooked with blockchain. I did an introductory course to cryptocurrency at the University of Nicosia with Antonopoulos and Polinitis, and since that time I also follow very closely the technology of Ethereum and of OpenBazaar, for example. Regarding projects, I'm currently working on two ideas. One is what I call smart vigil, and the other one is P2P commerce vigil. Smart vigil, just to give you an idea, is about giving a secure access to mobile data to enable evidence level usage of camera and screenshots of the mobile to use for several purposes like theft recovery or controlling of IoT devices.
May I ask, could that also be useful for like validating either like news stories, or whether there was or wasn't a coup, or for like entry into evidence for some litigation or something, or what are the markets you're imagining or uses?
Well, just to give you a very current event which took place in Germany. Maybe you have heard that we had some, on a large scale, some sexual harassment of women during the New Year's night. And
that's awful.
Yes, it is horrible. And actually in Europe, there's a lot of theft going on with smartphones and tablets and mobiles. And the Google and Apple Find Your Device functionalities are very limited, and if you want to recover it, it's basically useless. And so whenever you get robbed, the person also maybe damaged you, like what happened in Cologne during New Year's Eve. But if the thief is taking your smartphone, and if you can control your smartphone and the sensors and the camera from a web interface, you can, at the end, not only repossess your smartphone, but you can uncover the criminal. And this is what I'm trying to shoot at.
Awesome. That sounds very interesting.
And by using the blockchain, you can use the pictures which are made with your smartphone as an evidence compared to unidentified or unauthorized pictures made by the camera phone. So that's my idea.
Okay, do you have a name for the project?
Yes, Smart Vigil.
What is the picture?
Vigil, like vigilant.
Vigil? Vigil? Like, can you spell it?
V-I-G-I-L.
Is that G like green?
Like rent.
R. Like rent?
No, like Grand Central.
Grand. Okay, so Vigil.
Yep.
Okay, terrific. All right. Cool. Thank you. That's very, very cool. Okay. So is anybody joining us in person or online that hasn't introduced themselves? Like you? Can you just say a couple of words for those that weren't with us? Great, thanks. You might as well come up here. And welcome back.
Hi. My name is Raj. I work at John Hancock Innovation Lab, and we are working on blockchain technologies, understanding them, seeing what the use cases are for financial companies and for insurance companies. I don't have a project in mind. I'm a developer by trade, full stack developer by trade, and so I've just been learning a lot about blockchain over the last few months and trying to get my hands into everything and get my hands dirty, basically. Yeah.
Cool, thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, sorry, I thought it was a brass rack for a second. Okay. It's very cool. It's got some hardware going. Okay, terrific. So thanks. So Jonathan, if you could, so welcome back, and if you don't mind just coming out of stealth mode there, and if you could help us get started, and maybe help me pass the baton to Bill Marino, who's going to educate us about the law.
Terrific. That's what I'm here for. So, folks, if you didn't hear me on Tuesday, I'm a law professor at Brooklyn Law School, but I'll be was it me, Jonathan, or the other Jonathan Dazza?
You, Jonathan Askin. And by the way, I'm not getting any video from you, but I don't know
my
if that's
on. No, can others see my video?
Nope. But can anyone see his video? Well, no, he's very handsome and charismatic. So just you project into the blackness. Oh, there we go. And now we have an icon. And yeah, go ahead, Jonathan, hit it.
Okay. Anyway, I'm a law professor at Brooklyn Law School, but I'm spending this spring at MIT working with Dazza on the various tech law projects. But among them is this blockchain ProtoypeJam that he's organized. My main objective is to help you all steer the course legally, and to do two things. First, to make sure what you're doing sufficiently abides by the law, or where the law is suspect, try to steer you in a virtuous direction, but also use this as a vehicle by which we might try to morph the law to better suit the needs of all your ventures. So my objective is primarily one of lawyer and learner. I know I'm probably on the lower end of the spectrum of those of us who know anything about blockchain and its deployment. So I'm in learning mode a lot this week and next week. But my final objective will be by the end of the month to make sure you've got ventures that we can try to launch that are legally solid, legally sustainable, and can move forward over the next few months.
Dynamite, thank you. We're developing a nice list of people that are leaning toward launch from the napkin ideas. Including what I guess I won't breach lawyer client confidentiality by even like naming them, but basically anybody here can take Jonathan up on this offer. And what people may not know is that in addition to being a law professor, Jonathan also is an extremely kick-ass like accelerant for startups in Brooklyn, and he's conceived of and run something called BLIP, the Brooklyn, help me,
Law Incubator and Policy Clinic.
Law Incubator and Policy Clinic. And so, you know, if you've noticed that things are off the hook in Brooklyn now with startups and through the Navy Yard and all through Dumbo and so forth, I think, you know, Bloomberg and the administrations and just, you know, the community there rightly attribute some of that to Jonathan and the work that they've done to reduce the bloat and the obstacles and the cost when people are starting up, the last time they need complexity and cost for all the legal stuff, and to increase the quality of outcomes by getting the right advice at the right time, structuring things. Oh, there you are, Jonathan. Great, structuring things in a great way. And so we're going to get some of that blip magic up here in Cambridge, where we have plenty of innovators. And the most important thing from my perspective, and then please say a few words so we can back to you, Jonathan. The most important thing from my perspective is he's a law professor and he's helping us to launch law.MIT.edu. And so he'll be here sitting like in my office on a more regular basis starting in the spring semester, which is at the beginning of February.
Well, I'll be here starting Tuesday.
And starting Tuesday, he'll be here for the remaining classes of this IAP January session as well. So we're going to be doing in the small through January with each of you and your projects what we hope to be doing on a more scaled basis through Sandy Pentland and Joost Bonson's Media Ventures course in February, which is where I end up making most of my contributions to Media Lab courses, startups and projects that have some legal dimension to them, or legal technology, including legal startups. So those of you that are doing contracts or something that is a rules management system or basically a startup that uses blockchain or other technology in the sector that is the law, that's a place where we can also bring some depth. As a quick reminder, we also do have a relationship with BU Law School at MIT now, and so next week on Thursday, a week from today, a law professor will be here to help provide some further advice, and they have a law clinic that's local with Massachusetts licensed professors and clinicians, and Jonathan and that professor are sort of in contact, and we'll be coordinating there as well. So Jonathan, did you any other words before we
No, I just want to say it was very hard to hear the first couple of folks speaking. So did anyone take notes in the room per chance?
Did anyone take notes? We didn't. So we're missing one critical Carolyn Reckhow, who is our like note taker extraordinaire. She's on like a can't miss call. So I apologize we didn't get that, but I'll take the opportunity to say this here for people in the room is the talking stick. But unlike the talking stick around the fire in the lodge, you don't just hold it like this. You hold it like this. It's like it's ice cream and you like ice cream, okay? So you want to eat this thing. Otherwise, Jonathan and everyone will not hear the words. So if you're trying to convey things by talking, put the mic up to your mouth and be thankful when people like me and Hacky and everybody else say, put the mic up to your mouth, or when we go like this, it means we have to be able to hear you. So it's the talking stick that you talk into. Okay, so having said that, everyone forgets, including me, so tell me to talk into the mic. That's why I wear this thing, because I forget. All righty, so here we go, Jonathan, you ready?
I'm ready. Yeah,
okay, let's hit it. So like lean back and listen to what the shape of the law is for the next generation. This is Bill Marino, who is an attorney and who is a computer science and who's going to educate us about smart contracts and contracts and the relationship between them. Very much continuation of our stream of dialogue last week. And I want to thank you for coming up from New York to be here with us in person. And based on the terrific start that we had and talking about alignment on the merit of the research and the projects that we're doing at law.MIT.edu and what you're doing, I look forward to a very, very fruitful continuation of our collaboration. I have to say it's an honor to have you up here to kind of like talk to us about your insights on key questions. And I encourage people to, in Slack, actually, let me ask, Hacky, or do we have the accelerant? And what's it called? Emotion or something? Reaction. So everyone in Slack, as Bill was talking, listen through the lens of Slack online and in person. Pose questions in Slack in Blockchain Projects channel of Open Collab organization, which is where we're that's for Switzerland in Slack. And then when you see a question that you like or that you also want to have asked, hit the, can you tell them? This is Hacky.
Hi everyone. So whenever you mouse over any comment on Slack, then you can see like a little happy face and a plus sign. You click there, that's a reaction, and then when you add the reaction, you can choose a thumbs one. So you just thumbs up or a plus one, and then you just choose that, and it's gonna count like how many people liked that question, so that we know which questions more people are interested in hearing the answer to. So.
We'll be sort of playing DJ with those questions.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, everyone can play DJ, and everyone should be looking at all the questions and doing reactions to the ones that you really care about. And but also between Julia and Gabby, who I affectionately call Hacky because she hacks really well, and me, we'll try to kind of be their like live radio show producer and like pop up the questions from Slack. And so even if you're in the room, go ahead and do it. Like Slack's the great equalizer. Slack is terrific. We love Slack in the Media Lab in a lot of ways. We also are going to be doing a full court press by the time we get to the fourth week of January to be able to have more like thousands of people involved in the demos and some more rapid prototyping things online. So we're going to be like kind of based on the overflow of interest that we had and our lack of capacity to accommodate everybody this week and next week. We're retooling with ConesnSys and other partners for the fourth week to really open it up, and that has to be online. So let's actually use Slack right now in these more limited tools and be thinking about where are the bottlenecks, where are the ways we could perfect this to scale it and have the deepest, richest, interactive, collaborative, participatory experience with everybody. Because people online are just as precious as everybody else. In fact, we're all online. So having said that, hey, Bill, what's the law, man? What's going on here?
Okay. Can I just get a thumbs up that you guys can hear me as well as you heard Dazza? Maybe someone show me a thumbs up if you're hearing me okay.
Or ask Jonathan.
Jonathan, you can hear me okay. Okay, great. So the first thing I want to say is that I'm probably the person who's going to show up here that's the least of an expert.
Okay, great.
On as much.
So the first thing I want to say is that I'm probably the person who's going to show up here that's the least of an.
So I'm very much a grunt in the trenches of Ethereum. So I'll be talking mostly today about Ethereum. I hope that's cool. I'll occasionally reference other platforms.
We're getting weird feedback.
Very much a grunt in the trenches. I was where a lot of you guys are. I know there's a couple of people here that have a little bit more experience, but I also know a lot of you are probably just starting out, and that's exactly where I was about 4 months ago. So I'm here to kind of convey all the things I've learned, and I probably have slightly less questions than you guys have. So let's definitely make this an interactive conversation, and there'll sometimes be things that I don't know the answer to, and we'll all work through them in real workshop. Okay?
Bill, sorry to interrupt you. I think there is a lot of feedback, and I think there may be two microphones on.
So let me just do my kind of boilerplate intro material. I'm Bill Marino. I am an attorney. I'm a member of the New York Bar, mostly a securities litigator, always a litigator, mostly securities, a little bit of IP, a little bit of antitrust. I am a computer science graduate student at Cornell Tech, which is the new New York City campus of Cornell. I don't know if you guys have heard about it. They're building a huge campus on Roosevelt Island. In the meantime, they're getting all the classes up and running on the third computer science. I'm in the third computer science graduate class. We're in the Google building. They've been nice enough to donate space to us over on 8th Avenue in Manhattan. And I do research there at Cornell Tech for, you guys can hear me? Everyone hears? I see winces or something, so maybe I'm, cool.
It was
Jonathan, I'm going to
for a
pick you
while.
out again. Jonathan is muted. Is everyone muted?
It was terrible for a while. It's good now.
Oh yeah. Well, they should be able to see my slides, right? I'm down.
So right now, let me just go here and here. Now everyone can see your slides.
Okay.
Get updates for everyone.
Cool. Can we also just check maybe in the Slack and make sure the volume is let's check in the Slack.
I'll check while you.
Sure. Okay, cool. All right. Okay, so I am at Cornell Tech. There I do research on smart contracts for a professor named Ari Jules. He's an amazing crypto professor that we have down there. And Ari is part of a larger initiative called IC3, the Initiative for Cryptocurrencies and Contracts. The website is initc3. I'll send that on the Slack later. And that is a coalition of professors at Cornell, Cornell Tech, Berkeley, and UMD, and they're all researching these issues. So that's how I got into it. I started doing research for Ari about 6 months ago. And here I am. I feel like I've been doing nothing but Ethereum for the last 4 months. So I'm going to talk to some very broad kind of legal issues. And just to kind of get the wheels in your brain turning, I think we're running pretty far behind, so I'll probably skip over some of the stuff I planned to cover and not get into the nitty-gritty of some stuff. And then at the end, it sounds like you guys have not done any Solidity like coding, right? Okay, so Ethereum has a couple high-level languages. You'll hear people talk about the other ones, like Serpent, which is the Python-based one. I think Simon or somebody before class mentioned it to me that they were maybe looking at that. I will tell you, like, I think Solidity is by far the most popular high-level language. Has anyone said this to you guys before? So, like, I was at DevCon for all 5 days in November, and I think Serpent was maybe mentioned 5 times or something, and everyone all week is just talking and encoding in Solidity. I think it's definitely become far and away the most popular high-level language for Ethereum. So it sounds like you guys have not gotten any like kind of basics in Solidity. And is anyone here coding in Solidity like at the moment, or coding for Ethereum at the moment? That's okay. That's great. That's better. So what I'll do is I'll put you guys in my shoes 4 months ago, and we'll like literally at the end of this talk we'll start from the basics, like data types and stuff like that, if that's cool. Before that, I'll get into the law stuff. I'll try not to bore you too much, but I think it's some like important kind of conceptual things that are good for everyone to think about. Then we'll get into the coding stuff. We'll do like a brief basic overview, and then at the end, if I have time, I'll try to do a code along. We'll code up like a really simple smart contract. Okay, so let's get into it real quickly. I'm going to steamroll through some of this. Anything that I say is US law unless I say otherwise, and if I'm just offhand referring to contracts or smart contracts, I'm talking about Ethereum. But you guys should feel free to voice other platforms. I'll occasionally reference more kind of static contracts like you'll see on Bitcoin. Okay. So the first thing I want to talk about is this. The definitions of contract, smart contract, and then the use of smart contract and contract on Ethereum. So at law, contract has a very specific, discrete meaning, right? This is just the definition that I pulled off the Cornell Legal Information Institute, which is a very useful free resource. An agreement creating obligations enforceable by law. So that's the legal definition, right? And you can see it's very circumscribed. And then there is smart contract. And I think initially, back in the seminal writings of smart contracts, specifically Nick Szabo's writings, but some other writings at that time, I think if you look at how smart contract was initially defined, it fell under the umbrella of a contract at law. It was pretty closely aligned with it. So I'm going to show you a couple of quotes. I love Nick's early writings, and I definitely would suggest that you check them out at some point. So here are a couple of Nick's definitions. A smart contract is a computerized transaction protocol that executes the terms of a contract. So you can kind of see there that it's still within that umbrella, that definition of a contract at law. It's just we're adding a little bit to it, but we're keeping it inside that definition. Here's another one I like of his. And I'm sorry to run all these by you, but they have these little nuances that I like. A smart contract is a set of promises specified in digital form, including protocols within which the parties perform on those promises. So what I really like about this definition is the way Nick is kind of painting a smart contract is not just something that is a digital contract, because I think to this day you'll hear people talk about smart contracts and really, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this, because honestly, smart contract, it can mean at this point in time anything you want it to, really. But there's one definition that I think is more closely aligned with, in my mind at least, with a digital contract, which is just that you're taking a contract and you're digitizing it, right? You're putting it in binary form. And then if you look at these early writings of Nick, you'll see that there's another element that he has in there, which is that performance is built into the contract, okay? So that's kind of in the tail end of this definition here. Protocols within which the parties perform on these promises. So this is this notion, you'll hear this referred to as self-enforcement, right, or self-execution. And it's the kind of idea that it's the idea that not only can we capture a contract in digital form, but we can also build things into it or embed it in hardware and software that that helps that contract kind of automatically perform the parties' promises. So this is just something to think about. There's no right or wrong answers or any of these things. It's just that I want everyone here to be thinking about what is a smart contract? How do we define it? How is it different than a contract at law? How is it different than a digital contract? There's one other Nick Szabo, and I'm sorry to beat you over the head with these Nick Szabo definitions, but I really like this one because of a single word, and I know Simon is going to like this word. The basic idea of smart contracts is that many kinds of contractual clauses can be embedded in the hardware and software we deal with so as to make breach of contract expensive, if desired is sometimes prohibitively so for the breacher. So I love this idea of embedding the contract in hardware and software. And actually one of Nick's early examples of a smart contract, it might be the very first one that he ever wrote about, is just a vending machine, right? And a vending machine actually is a contract. It's a standing offer. There's cases on this actually from the 1920s. It's a standing offer, and you can go up and you can accept it, right? You slip in your dollar and you're accepting the offer that the vending machine represents. And the machinery inside the vending machine, I think there's a little computer in it, I think, that they call a controller. That, and then the lockbox and all these other moving parts, they're kind of the embedding of the promise, and they're guaranteeing that the performance takes place. So is this kind of making sense? This is just something to think about when people come up to you and they start talking about smart contracts, and you might want to start compartmentalizing and thinking about what it means to you. Let me skip ahead a little bit. One of the reasons this matters is, it might sound kind of trivial, but one of the reasons it matters, and let me actually go back 2 steps. you have Nick Szabo's smart contract definitions, right? And then you'll hear other smart contract definitions that are much, much broader than Nick's. And in fact, they've become unanchored from that original contract law definition that we saw earlier. So here's one from Eris, which is another smart contract platform. And I think it's a separate, yeah. Cool. So so is Casey coming here?
I was just reminded by somebody, by Al, actually sent me an interview with him. I was like, oh, that's right. We have to invite Casey. So by this calendar date, you'll be invited. If he hears this, say, Casey, hey, Casey, you're invited.
Casey, you're invited if you hear this.
So he hasn't had the opportunity to say yes yet. I apologize.
Cool. So so Eris is another smart contract platform, and I think actually they build their own blockchains. I don't know too much about Eris, but this is a quote from them. Define again another definition of smart contracts, and you'll see this one is like so much broader, and it's kind of divorced from like a contract at law. And you'll see in a second that on Ethereum, I think the problem is even bigger. Or I don't want to call it a problem; it's just a behavioral pattern. So here's this definition. Smart contracts are modular, repeatable, autonomous scripts, which can be used to build applications for yourself, for a community, for a client, for a bounty, or even just for fun. So the point is, it's much broader, right? And then on Ethereum, it's as broad as you can possibly go. In fact, people call literally everything on Ethereum a contract. I'm going to give you just two quick examples. If you go to the Ethereum splash page, you will see a sample contract. It's called Greeter, and essentially it's just hello world, but it's labeled a contract. So you can see that like an application or a process that behaves like your typical hello world program, it's very, very far from that legal definition that we saw in the first slide. Okay. There's another example of this, which is simple storage. That's the first contract you see on Solidity tutorial. Again, it's labeled a contract. It just stores and retrieves integers. So again, very far from that initial legal definition. Just to throw this out there, there was a choice in the early days of Ethereum to label the sort of Lego brick of Ethereum, which is this contract account that sits on the blockchain. There was a decision to label that a contract. And if you look at the white paper, that's what it's called there. Even though smart contract use cases weren't really the only thing that the Ethereum founders were looking at, but for whatever reason, contract became the label for the blockchain object. And I think that's why you hear everything, even things that are more like applications or processes, called contracts in Ethereum. And then people have kind of backfilled and added the word smart contract back, so you'll also hear things that look like hello world called smart contracts. So just kind of like be thinking about these things. It might seem like a lot of trivia, but the reason it matters is that if we want to be able to create, and certainly some people are really interested in creating contracts on Ethereum, and or you know, whatever you want to call them on Ethereum, creating things on Ethereum that resemble contracts at law, right? And if that's what you want to create, and you set about creating something that is enforceable not just by code on Ethereum, which is awesome, but also maybe enforceable in court as a backstop, if you want to achieve those twin goals, then I think it's important to get the terminology right. To be calling things that aspire to be contracts at law, to exclusively be calling those things contracts or smart contracts, and that might help us all develop best practices with regard to those things. And one of those best practices, and I think I'm not going to get into too much detail about this, if it's okay with Dazza, because I think it sounds like Solidity is maybe the most important thing. No, I think while you were out of the room, I mentioned that it sounds like no one has done a ground-up Solidity, and we talked about this last night. No one has done ground-up Solidity, so maybe I'll try to definitely hit that stuff and focus on the basics of Solidity and do a quick code along at the end.
Please do.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll.
We hit a roadblock, and when we do report outs from Tuesday night, you'll see that we want to use it, and we actually need some practical hands-on advice on.
Okay, cool.
Install, config, apply, like hack Solidity.
Okay, so that install, config, etc. That's Geth, and Simon installed Geth, right? has anyone else tinkered around with Geth at all? Okay, great. So Solidity is one of the high-level languages that you're going to code up your contracts in. You're eventually going to drop it either onto a test net. Has anyone experimented with setting up a test? Okay, great. That was one of my my biggest hurdles, was getting a test net set up.
Real quick commercial. Somebody that's on the Hangout in here drop off because I need to get this on. Cool. Okay. Yep. So say when.
So that's all a long-winded way of saying that. I'm going to hit the Solidity stuff. I'm getting your permission. That means I'm going to skip through. I had a long section here about like the elements of a contract, and I know that you guys have Jonathan at your disposal, and a contract at law is made up of, even if elements is like the word I should be using here, but there's certain building blocks. Okay. Let me just pull up a slide where I kind of have these. Well, this definition from the Restatement of Contracts kind of hits your central building blocks. These are the things you learn in like contracts in first year in law school, right? Formation of a contract requires a bargain in which there is a manifestation of mutual assent to the exchange and a consideration. And each of these things breaks down into their own definitions. You know, a bargain is an agreement to exchange promises, to exchange performances, or to exchange a promise for performance. I will not get into these here. They're worth digging into a little bit. And the reason is this. If you want to do what I said before and create something that is kind of this win-win situation where it's enforceable at code, and if something breaks, which actually does happen, and I have an example which I'll try to touch on later, code misfires, or there may be some kind of unexpected event that occurs.
And in that case, you want to create something that's also enforceable in court, like a regular contract.
I think a lot of the serious players looking at the blockchain, they're used to that too, right? They've been using paper contracts for 500 years or whatever, and that is what they're used to. They're used to enforcing things in court.
Sorry, we are not able to hear you, Bill.
Those building blocks of a contract for today. Definitely worth digging into. One thing I do want to hint at, though, is there.
Check that it's back on now. Just a switch.
Yeah.
I don't think we missed anything essential.
Okay.
So I'd say keep rocking.
Cool. I do want to hit this. This is important. There is some evidence that if you create something in code that resembles a real contract and has those building blocks, that it will be enforceable in court. There's a bit of a track record. I'm just trying to dig that up here. As soon as I hit the first case name, there it is. So the U.S. courts do seem inclined to enforce what you might call digital contracts. Okay. And this is also important for those of you who are going to work on other platforms like Bitcoin, or some of the other blockchains where you're trying to take a hash and put it on the blockchain like a hash of a contract. I think that's what Dazza was kind of mentioning on Tuesday, right? Mm-hmm. Was maybe doing something at GitHub repo and then hashing it and then putting that hash on the blockchain. And that's a spectacular idea. I'm sure that people are doing similar things. I'd like to take a win on your sales.
I want to meet those people.
I think, for example, Hedgie is doing something similar with derivatives contracts. And I think somebody else is plopping things on the Bitcoin blockchain that are essentially hashes of
some kind of proof of existence that's at the start of Bitcoin for like a few years.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly like it's the ancestor of all those things. So proofs of existence.
That URL back up.
Yeah. A URL I put up?
It was your slide. Could you put the slide back
I'm
up?
sorry. I don't know why that.
Yeah, I don't know.
That was me, cameraman. Doing triple duty. Also, these are all available at your neighborhood-friendly MIT.edu /law/blockchain. The way we do. in Bill's corner. Did you see your corner?
I didn't see it, but I'm so excited to check it out.
Bill has a corner.
And by the way, is this bored to death? Do you want to skip to the code, or is this okay? Don't be afraid. Give it to me straight. I don't mind. So just stick your, give me a signal. Like it could be like a nose kind of thing, like, and then.
Question: is anything coming through from Slack? Are we starting to get questions, and are we getting some emotion on them, or velocity, or whatever it was? Nothing yet. Okay. Cool. All right. Yeah. Keep rocking. Okay. Cool. I think I have plenty anyway. So when we ask people, I think they'll roll.
So I will hit these very quickly too. There's a bunch of cases sort of saying that just because a contract is in digital form doesn't make it any less valuable. Okay. And those mostly have to do with click wrap agreements, but there's some other examples too, like contracts that are done over email, which if you think about it is a digital contract. So at least this Fourth Circuit case here cites the e-Sign Act, which is a federal act, and I'm going to read my slide here because I don't want to say this wrong, a federal act mandating that a contract relating to transactions involving or affecting interstate commerce may not be denied legal effect, validity, or enforceability solely because an electronic signature or electronic record was used in its formation. So that's a federal act, the e-Sign Act. And Metropolitan and a couple other cases signed this one. Dazza, you know the e-Sign?
I wrote some of that one.
Hey, look at that. Yeah. All right. Well played.
Wonderful. And that the operative language comes from the UNCITRAL model on electronic commerce, so it's the United Nations Commission on International Trade Law. So we took the operative language from that and propagated it first in Uniform Electronic Transactions Act, which is uniform.
That's my next slide, I think.
Then you are, as I thought, right on target, sir.
All right, cool. So that last, the e-Sign is federal. A lot of states have followed with similar language, which I have in the slide. And this is all, again, a way of saying that there's a good chance if you create something on Ethereum or on another blockchain that it is also enforceable in court. But you want to hit those elements that I talked about, and then I'm going to kind of skip over. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
In case you say that in this podcast that code running will not stand in the court because judges and juries can't read Solidity or any other contract language, right?
Sure.
Yeah, we do have law around digital signatures, right? We don't have law around code right now.
Well, okay, so to break that down a little, totally good point, and actually something I was going to address later on, which is like judges do not know Solidity. I assure you, no judge knows Solidity. I'm willing to bet like $200 that no judge knows Solidity. I would bet if you had a jury, less than 0.01% of jury members, probably actually way less, know any Solidity. So you would never want to show up in court with nothing but Solidity. And I'll just hit this now because it seems to interest you. It's a good idea maybe to draw tendons between your pure code and some kind of analog contract, right? Like something that is legible in court. I love what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, so the. What's that? Okay, it could be a flowchart, but the big question is this: where do you actually put that? So, like, right now, there's the blockchain. There's like the Ethereum blockchain, and there's not a good place to stuff like a link. That's not true. You could put it in an array maybe as like a string. I mean, this is the kind of thing that I would love for someone to work on, but there's not, other than storing data inside the contract, which is transparent to all and which is kind of expensive, there's not a good way to stuff things like choice of law provisions or something like that, or even links to offline contracts that are more legible to a judge or a jury. I might be wrong here, and I'd love for you guys to dig into that and to think about ways to have links to the analog world on the blockchain.
Can I say a quick thing?
Yeah, please. Do you want the Madonna?
Hello. So first of all,
a just logistical thing. Hackie tells us, based on her pulse of the digital world, that we need 2 people to log off so that our next 2 speakers can log on, because we're having a success disaster. And like, we're oversubscribed. Yay! Oh no. So I want to orchestrate this. Can someone on Slack get through to our speakers, and if our speakers are hearing us online, I'm now going to log off one, and can somebody else log off that, and then basically, if you're in the room, just listen and stay on Slack. If you're not in the room, revert back to the live stream from, thanks Google, from Google Hangout for the princely price of free, and be able to get the audio stream that way live, and then it's a slight delay, you know, 20 seconds, and still engage with Hangout. So here we go. Ye speakers of the next segment, one of us is logging off right now, and who else is logging? Who else is going to log off? Anybody? Anyone in the room? Okay, good. Yep, very good. And boom. Okay. So the other very quick thing is, hey Al, savvy question, dude. And so whatever project you end up doing, let's get into that, and we can invent a dispute, and as part of like scenario planning or use cases where this would come up in court. And I want to play it all the way through with you. But basically, at a high level, part of what it's good to say when you're educating people who aren't familiar with the statute for the first time, first of all, what's a signature? Secondly, what's a record, and how does it create a contract? And then what do you have to do to enter adequate evidence of that in court so that you'd have an opportunity to win the dispute? So a signature is any sound, symbol, or process executed or adopted by a party with a present intent to sign, to basically adopt or like create a signature. So the first thing you should notice about that is, wait a minute, didn't you use the word signature in the definition of electronic signature? Hey, what's going on, mister? Well, the answer is, yeah, that's right. And that's after like years of going back and forth and figuring out what an electronic signature should be. And what we ended up doing was reverting to a time-honored, deeply tested common law and statutory uniform commercial code definition, which is a signature is any symbol or method that you execute or adopt with an intent to basically be bound by or authenticate or adopt a record. So like a contract, to execute a contract, to sign a contract so it's enforceable, you could put a charcoal X on that sucker. And if you're doing it with the intent of signifying your, like maybe you don't know how to sign a name, like a seal is another really good example. A seal, totally valid. So you get into these evidentiary questions when people are not signing their name of, did they do that with the intent? If it's a signature machine on like a check, it's no biggie. I sign my name a lot of different ways, actually. But so long as like there's that, it's so that's what it creates to have a signature. To prove that that signature, if you have an authentication question, you'll want to tie that signature to the party that you're trying to hold accountable, or what we call attribution, to attribute the act. We can get into that later, but honestly, if you do a review, at least for decades, the last time I did was late 90s, but I don't think it's changed much, that the dispute is someone says, I didn't sign that. It's usually, yeah, I signed that, but some extenuating circumstance, or I have a defense to enforcement, or I withdrew my consent within 3 days or something. Thanks. The other thing is, what's a record? A record's like any data that's instantiated in an intelligible form. So like you can have a contract out of like some emails going back and forth. We've uncovered some great cases in the late 90s from telegraphs when they're coming on big, and like there's some very good, like judges in common law countries are great at looking at how people do commerce and adopting and adapting the rules to their behavior. And so we have an evolving system of common law that reflects and supports commercial practices. And so like there's some flowery language I'll pull up because you'll love it, of a federal court judge in the New England in like the 1890s saying like, yes, the contract between these two parties on telegraph is enforceable. It's as though the hand of the other party reached out over the ether, for real, like hundreds of miles, and signed it on the other side of the telegraph machine. And it totally is like that. So like judges are pretty good in common law systems. So if you want to get out of something to say it wasn't me, they'll usually see, right, or to say it's not, I didn't, to say it's not me because I used an ink pen that was blue, not black, or it was some technical error. For the most part, they look to see, was it the party, did they have a present intent to sign, those types of things, unless there's some very particular form requirements. This statute, the UNCITRAL Model Electronic Commerce Act, which is reflected in the Uniform Electronic Transactions Act at the state level, and UEDA, and also GPIA and some other federal statutes, really just codifies that because people weren't comfortable doing it unless they had an affirmative statement of what the common law already was. So the main thing to let people know is as long as you're basically meeting the elements of a contract, people intended to sign it, and as long as the circumstances are such that you have adequate evidence to enter into court of what happened, adequate, like proportional to the risk, proportional to how much fight there'll be, high value, mission critical, sensitivity. You can do a risk assessment. You can do a good risk assessment in your case, Bill. Then that's good enough. And so, like, for my transactions where I'm like maybe selling like music online, I do very little to authenticate who it was. Like, I'll do an email, and that's fine. If somebody really wanted to prove that their email was compromised, like I'm out $10 or $20. If it's a much bigger transaction, we will do much deeper authentication. But you just need something proportional to Al's point of when you go into court, what do you show? You might need to get an expert authenticated, like I've had to play this game a couple of times on both sides, or you might want to make sure that you have regular business records that you can stand up and tell a normal human and explain to them, this hash function represents this thing that happened, this server backup is this, and our business records person or archivist or IT guy or a librarian sometimes, or whoever can credibly speak to the records, can say, yep, and if someone objects and says, yeah, but how do you know someone didn't do it, they can say something like, well, I keep it in my middle desk drawer, it's locked, like someone could have come in, like in Watergate, but then you would say, well, have you noticed it was unlocked or tampered with at any point? No, I haven't. A judge would probably go like, okay, like they might make a ruling on it, you do some motion practice, but that's literally what you do. So to Al's question is like, you argue it, and you have to make it comprehensible to a court. So the promise we have to work with Bill and with Jonathan this semester, like these days, the next days of January, is to apply the technology in ways where later, if there's a dispute, people can explain what happened in a way that aligns with the rules, which we can show you. They're much simpler than the rules of technology in many ways. And number two, that is designed to identify and avoid the typical causes of disputes. So what Bill is saying is right on the money. Like every single thing he said that I've heard so far as I can tell, you can count on. And that's some color and texture to how it plays out within courts and what specifically are the types of things you would enter into evidence in order to have an admissible and persuasive argument as to your story about what the transaction was and what happened. Is that fair? Yeah. Okay, great. Back to Bill.
Just one follow-up to that. One of the actually funnest things is about exploring this stuff is that all of these issues are not ironed out yet. So, when we're talking about how the law is going to apply to smart contracts and Ethereum, it has definitely not been covered in any court, certainly not that I'm aware of. And so there's a lot of speculation, and I can't wait until that gets ironed out. But we need like brain power looking at these things in the meantime, so that's why everyone is here. And you guys have access to some amazing brain power on the legal front, so definitely take care. I'm not talking about myself, I'm talking about Dazza and Jonathan. Okay, I'm already 10 minutes over where I was supposed to stop. What is like my hard stop for Bill Marino? Where should I stop to make sure I give everyone else time?
Okay, so we're asking questions that are Carolyn questions. Carolyn's actually very organized, I found. She's a great collaborator. Can you post that question to Carolyn, please? I'm just like
So I'm over budget, but this class is not your received sort of like a very basic ground up coverage. Yeah.
Do we need to go to the next speaker?
Okay. Cool. I can hang tight, and then maybe at the tail end, if there's time, then I can launch into Solidity.
Oh yeah, so we have a demo. Okay, you stick with us before.
Yeah, I'm here. Like my train is at 9:30, so.
Okay, great. So maybe what I'm going to suggest is we do the hands-on Solidity walkthrough for people that want to know, and we'll also get it on Hangout. But we actually don't need to do this time.
Okay.
And then once we do it online and it's in the can,
okay.
We'll be free from the handcuffs of time and space. People can see it whenever they want. So with that, thank you, Bill.
Yeah.
That was extremely awesome.
Well, I'm honored to be here. So I'm here as a resource, not just today, but for the whole duration of the course. And rely on me. You can text me at 4 a.m. and I'll probably respond. So I'm here for you guys.
We tested that hypothesis. It's true, actually. Cool. Thanks, man. Dynamite. Well, great. Do you mind, Lars, introducing the next speaker? Sure. And yourself.
Okay. Hi. All set? Hi, I'm Carolyn Rackow. I am with ConesnSys, and my role in the hackathon is helping you guys by bringing some experts in the Ethereum ecosystem who have built decentralized applications on Ethereum and who have also built developer tools for people who want to learn how to develop on Ethereum. And up next, we have the pleasure of hosting two gentlemen who are the leads on a really interesting decentralized application. We've got Christian Lundkvist and Jeff Scott Ward, who are working on a project called Balance 3, which is a triple entry accounting system on the blockchain. So with that, I guess we'll pass it over to them.
Thank you, Carolyn. It's great to be talking to you guys today.
Hey guys, I'm sorry, we couldn't hear what you said a moment ago. I'm going to pull your volume up just a sec. Okay, great. Can you speak?
Yes. Can you hear us? Can you hear us? Yes. No?
Yep, you're coming through. Great. If you could introduce yourselves, you've got the show, and go ahead and get to screen sharing when you're ready. So yeah, welcome, and hit it.
Thank you. Well, my name is Jeff Scott Ward, and I am one of the engineers here at ConesnSys, focusing mostly on capital markets applications, and specifically in recent months, Balance, the triple entry accounting system, which we debuted at DevCon, and my partner on the project is Dr. Christian Lundkvist, who's sitting beside me, who works on a lot of the low-lying protocols and tools for ID, persona, reputation, just all kinds of things in the ecosystem that are necessary to have underneath these applications that are just kind of taken for granted. So Christian, why don't you say hello?
Thank you, Jeff. Yes, like Jeff was mentioning, my name is Christian Lundkvist. I have a background in pure mathematics, and also finance. I used to work as a quant at Bloomberg, and I'm hearing some feedback.
Oh, let me.
Okay, yeah, that's better. Yeah, so background in mathematics and finance. I joined ConesnSys a while back and have been working on various projects. So Jeff mentioned digital identity. Also, you know, what we're going to show today is the triple entry accounting system. But I've also been doing some work with energy projects and also this financial markets project with derivatives and the total return swap. So yeah, I don't know. Shall we screen share this?
Yes. I should also mention my background. I used to work at the New York Stock Exchange and a Bitcoin trading outfit called TradeBlock. And if I share my screen here, I think there's a slide that includes that. There we go. Here we go. So this is our balance slide that we gave at DevCon. It's the Balance is the smart contract powered triple entry accounting system that we're building here. This is, yeah, again, more of our background. Christian used to work at Bloomberg, quantitative analytics, math PhD. Me, New York Stock Exchange, Bitcoin trading firm, and mostly a focus on JavaScript. Front-end heavy and tooling for Web3 frameworks. So if we jump right into it, Christian, I think, is more well-researched in double entry accounting, so I'll let him sort of take this.
Yeah, so is the screen share still the main focus? So yeah, just to make sure that I'm not in focus. Okay, good. So basically, just a quick primer on what double entry accounting is. So you basically have a financial transaction between two entities. So here we have some simple example where Alice is buying a hamburger from Bob, and what will happen in this transaction is that both of the entities, Alice and Bob, they have their own ledger where they record the transaction, and so Bob would have his double entry. So it has a debit, which in this case it says asset cash register, and it has a credit, which is the income sale in this case. And Alice again has a debit, which is her expense, and a credit, which is her asset account. So this is how it's been done ever since the 1400s, and it works pretty well. But there's really no link between these two accounts, and so it's fairly easy to have these accounts be, I mean, between the ledgers between the two. So it's easy for them to get out of whack. And so what triple entry accounting is meant to do is to use the blockchain as a kind of mediator of the transaction. So we can show how this can look in a triple entry context. So I think the phrase was coined by, or at least popularized by a man named Ian Grigg. And so what we have. So
you can read it.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. So basically, in this case, we have an Ethereum contract that mediates the exchange. And so you can see that in the contract we have all these terms. The contract can be digitally signed. We have this IPFS hash basically that points to an entry with if we need even more information. And now the interesting thing is that the books of Alice and Bob will basically just contain a link to this contract on the blockchain. So the contract is there, and then Bob's ledger links to the contract, and Alice's ledger links to the same contract. So this is the smart contract on the blockchain is what we call the third entry in this case. And so you see that it basically cryptographically ties together the accounts of Alice and Bob, and so it makes it much harder to, let's say, commit fraud by manipulating your ledger. And it also makes it easier for, let's say, internal auditors to perform continuous auditing, etc. So this is kind of one of the main advantages. And well, I guess we can launch right into the.
Wait, do we want to go to the
is there another slide?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe you can do that.
I hope you guys can see this. Apologies. There we go. You can hear me. Okay. I hope you guys can see this. Apologies if it's very small. I'm working with a big screen, and it's just comparatively it shrinks it when it's in a browser. But yeah, one of the pieces to this is, or at least our intention is to use XBRL, which is a newly created financial data reporting, or even more than reporting, like metadata business process information standard. So that any business, you know, in a specific domain can create a common language between all of their internal departments, and this is now required by governments all over the world. You know, Netherlands, China, India, like this is the standard for financial reporting, at least, if not for other things, as it's extensible. So the SEC has been really advocating for this recently, and the hypothesis is that you know, there's a lot of meta information that you would want to include with financial data other than just purely the counterparties and the transactions. And as the blockchain costs money to use, we are going to be using IPFS to store all of this this data that isn't explicitly necessary to execute contracts. So as you can see here, it's XML based, or well, that was the original construction, but you could obviously serialize to JSON. You have a common schema to work against, and with this, you know, auditors and regulators already have these systems in place. So assuming that they can, you know, just ping the blockchain, get that address, and read it into their system, you have real-time auditing. So this is major, you know, being able to potentially stop systemic risk throughout the system, be able to trace mortgages all the way from the bottom, and having rating agencies actually deliver those ratings via like computation, as opposed to incentivized, client, you know, satisfying clients who are looking to get securities rated. So. And then just 2 days before I gave this talk, the SEC commissioner basically sort of gave a sort of thumbs up that they can see the potential here. More recently, you guys may know that Overstock has issued their securities on the NASDAQ blockchain, I believe, as well as Chain, another Bitcoin startup. So it seems to be getting the thumbs up, even as is, just on the very simplistic Bitcoin blockchain. So when you add in a Turing-complete virtual machine that can, you know, execute any arbitrarily complex administration or escrow systems or anything, you can see how powerful this really gets, and being able to bake in regulatory compliance completely. It's a major win. So I believe now, oh yes, so the overarching theory is that these things go together, and it basically allows businesses to be native to the blockchain and use these web standard through. You know, for the time being, Delaware C Corp and other types of businesses are required, but theory is in the future that you'll be able to have all of your books and all of your data and everything in this distributed fashion. So I believe now we will go to the other tab for the demo. Screen share. Yes, here we go. Okay, so I think everyone can see this. I'm going to full screen. Cool. So this is a video of the balanced invoicing demo where we have two parties. You know, one sending an invoice to the other. The person sending it signs it. The person receiving it signs it. And then there'll be a payment, and this is instant. So the idea is to stop or to reduce significantly the time for payments, as opposed to 3 days to a week for checks to clear, and to have that information on a separate system like QuickBooks or whatever the enterprise accounting software is, to all be one thing to be instant, to be in open standard formats, and to be secure and distributed and all that good stuff. So, Christian, would you like to run through this? Yes.
Sure.
Okay. I'm going to hit play now.
So basically, what we see here is a. Can you read?
Yeah.
So we oh. Oh, okay. Maybe you can start on. Okay, so we're gonna view this from the well, where'd it go?
Oh, you don't see it? Sorry, 1 second.
Are you still sharing?
Share.
Then it's decided by one hole or
Can you see it? Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. Oh, well, they have
how do I?
their mic on, so you have to. I'm sorry. Can you guys
Wait,
mute
wait,
your
wait.
mics on the other end?
Or maybe it's fine. I just put yours up there. Yeah. So anyway, so we see here one of the parties is Kobe, and we can see that he has a list of invoices here. To the left, you see under ID, you have the address of the specific smart contract that this particular invoice represents. And okay. So we're gonna create a new invoice here. This is gonna create a smart contract on the blockchain. So this looks like any type of a standard small business software. You can put the due date and currency, etc. And what's going to happen here is that a lot of this information is going to go. So some of the information will go on the blockchain, and most of the text memo's, etc., will go in IPFS as kind of a reference material. So we have some product here with the price, and we create the invoice. We should see a here we see the invoice has been created. We can see it here in a list of sent invoices, and we see that it has not been signed. Or we can look at it here first of all. It basically looks like a standard invoice. We have this number, which is its address on the blockchain, and we have all the necessary information that you would want in a normal invoice. And we see here awaiting sign-off and payment. So it hasn't been signed yet by the receiving party. So now we can go to the receiving party. We see that they have in their received invoices, they have received this, so they can open it up, and this is exactly the same smart contract on the blockchain. So they can go and sign it. This is digital signature, so this will actually send the transaction and put the corresponding signature on the blockchain, and they can at the same time pay the invoice, or if they want to pay later, that works too. And so now we should see. Yeah, if we were to look at that list, we can see that it's been actually signed and
how do we see?
And paid
to
already. So this is kind of like
I wasn't expecting that.
This is us showing that what a future use case could be. So basically, you can imagine. If every transaction is mediated by a smart contract, then you can have like an overview where you see which businesses are doing transactions with each other, and you can create kind of like an auditing graph, or what we call auditing graph, and this would kind of give an overview of let's say the financials, a part of the financial sector, etc. Who is doing business with who, and you can get a feel for, if there are systemic risks in there, or if there are patterns that might be fraudulent, etc. So that's a little taste of what an application built on this foundation could look like. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you very much. First of all, let me say that you really took me by surprise. It's Dazza with the, like the auditing graph from the fifth dimension here at the end. I was not expecting to see that. I was like, oh man, they must have got their videos mixed up, because they're also doing science fiction and some other stuff. But so that is just really cool, and I just wanted to give a nod there. That's the kind of auditing graph that's the sort of thing that could almost entice me to practice law again, if that's how it presented as a service that was based upon structured data and expressed itself through interfaces, and I could analyze it properly like normal people. Then maybe I would practice law again. So kudos, gentlemen. And why don't we go around now and do any Q&A? Can we? I think we should consolidate for Bill, as well as for the presentation that we just saw. So anybody online, right of first refusal always is yours, Jonathan Askin, if you have anything. But also, I see Shibani. I see a lot of wonderful people online. Don't force a question if you don't have one, but same in the room. Okay, and we're going to get started with Bill Marino. Bill?
So I actually asked this question in the Slack, and Jeff mentioned IPFS, which is one of the potential...
Yeah, just wait. Can I increase my position?
Okay, I'll just intro the question, Jeff. IPFS is an on-blockchain storage solution that might be an answer to the issue that Al raised earlier, which is if we have these contracts that are just code, and it might be hard for courts to, get their mind around them, never mind enforce them, and we want to try to link real, legible text to those. How can we do it? I've always thought that IPF was a potential solution for this, but I always thought IPF wasn't ready. So I'd love to get a statement on that from Jeff and Christian.
So IPFS is currently in an alpha stage, but it's pretty damn solid as an alpha, I would say. We are currently using it for a lot of our projects, and it has kind of two parts of it. One is the core protocol, which I think is quite stable at this point. The other one is the actual infrastructure of computers that would store this data, and that's kind of something that you have to now you have to, in some sense, run it yourself. I think so. Juan Benet, who's the creator of IPFS, he is running a bunch of nodes to help out the network. But the idea there is that in the future there will be an incentivization mechanism for people to actually get paid to store data. But right now, I would say it's pretty stable. I don't know if it's not production ready, I guess, but it's still pretty good, and I think it will be production ready very soon.
Okay, thank you. And, Bill's saying thank you. Is that like scratchy or is that okay? Say what? Okay. So I'd like to ask a question as well. One of our friends who will be joining us shortly is, I think next week at the latest, is Dave Blaskowski, who you guys probably know, formerly from the SEC, and he's responsible largely, with Matt Reed and with a great team back there for the XBRL regulation that requires publicly traded companies to do all their filings marked up in this dialective XML, this XBRL dialectic with the taxonomy. And it's really, I should say, for those of you interested in transforming the law, a good example of what statutes could look like and regulations could look like in the future, where the legal code incorporates by reference literally ISOs and other internationally recognized standards groups standards, and then like specific dialects of the standards like XBRL and the taxonomies of the SEC for filings. That's proper. That's code. That's legal code. That's technical code. And the code is law, and the law is code. So that's a real good example. Having said that, my recollection from when they were monkeying with that was that they built like they built it on the theory that others would come and start analyzing the XBRL and have better insights into the nature of the market, the nature of the financial positions of the companies that were doing the filings, be able to actually interrogate the data because it was structured. And I think that the graph that you just showed, the impressive audit graph, is an example of the sorts of types of visualizations and the types of dynamic analytics that I think SEC was hoping would be more common. I want to ask, have you, since you're very deep in real time or close to real time use of XBRL as a business intelligence data source, have you heard of anybody else doing XBRL fueled analytics and decision support? Anyone at all? Like,
I think we're back.
You can't. Okay, already. I think you're back too. So the question is, anyone else doing XBRL out there, especially with all of the rich data about in the economy of all those companies that are publicly traded who are exposing them very voluminous information about their financial positions, their markets, even their contracts. Edgar contracts are all marked up. The parties of the contracts, how much the money was for, what they were buying, when. There's so much rich data out there in XBRL that could help to target sales teams, help to target products and services, help to understand the point of penetration in a market, help to fill out more dimensions of the type of information that you were showing transactionally. What, you guys are in XBRL, what are you hearing? Like, where would be the cool data sets to cross-correlate or cross-tabulate with what you have in order to maybe add some more dimensionality and more actionable intelligence to what your system can provide? Can you hear me, I guess? Maybe not. Okie dokie. All right, so please join us again when you can. Hello. Okay. And Jonathan Askin, if you can hear us, great. If you could pop on for a moment. We're going to start to, so the sort of pulse that we have here is about 4 o'clock is when the formal session is over. And we stop broadcasting then, and then between 4 and 5, we have the room. It's booked every Tuesday and Thursday through January until 6, I think, actually. So we have more of an open, informal, let your hair down or off kind of conversation about projects and questions, relationship building, team formation. So before we wrap up the formal session, Jonathan, I know you're coming to town next week, and we've got. We're going to send out a schedule update, I should say. Next week it's going to be Tuesday and Wednesday. to make room for Kate Darling and a professor from BU to do another type of legal clinic on Thursday afternoon, which we encourage you to go to. But so we'll be Tuesday and Wednesday for our sessions. And Jonathan, did you want to help us with the wrap and the summary and looking ahead?
Yeah, one question for you guys. Did we confirm when Roman was going to be in Cambridge?
Could you repeat?
Do we know when Roman is coming in from China next week? Did we get confirmation?
Do you know?
Roman from Israel.
Yep. Do you know?
It's a possibility he'll be here in person. He will
Yep.
definitely be in.
Okay. Yeah. So we don't have confirmation. So he's certainly participating. We can count on that. And but we're hearing from Carolyn that it may be in person, it may be online, and we're not sure what the mix is or what his return flight is at this point.
Okay. Well, from my perspective, here's what I want to accomplish next week. I think it may make sense in both group discussions, but more likely in one-on-one discussions, that Dazza and I get the opportunity to vet your legal issues. I want to get this set up by the third week of January so that we know who's going to have serious legal questions and to whom we might either we might refer those legal issues, or to what extent we can vet them among ourselves. So law schools essentially start the third week of January. And the more likely we get your legal issues set up, we figure out what your ventures are trying to accomplish, the easier it's going to be for us to tap the various legal clinics at the beginning of the law school semester. So I want to spend a lot of time next week really vetting those issues and then trying to figure out how best to place you all with the various legal programs through the semester.
Dynamite, thank you. So one of the ways to get at that will help everybody. So there's a line here. Some of what Jonathan's talking about is actually lawyer-client relationship. So the reason why Jonathan used the phrase one-on-one is to the extent that some of you are going toward launch, and in particular, if you're going to be launching in New York, but more broadly than that, the Blip Clinic can take on a number of cases, and that's why it's Napkins to launch. And Jonathan's got a terrific record of helping companies go all the way to market and then go to phase after phase in markets. That's something he shares with Sandy Pentland, I think, well. It's going to be a great pairing when it comes to human dynamics. In addition to that, there's an aspect of your projects which are not lawyer-client. In fact, it's the other side of the spectrum. They're radically open, and so there's aspects of your. So what for that part? And something that we're looking for is 2 data elements. One data element is the title, just the name of your project. What is it called? The second one is a blurb about the project. And so I feel like I've got a good pulse from many of you on what that would be. Don't worry too much. It's just IAP. We're just going to hack it. We'll learn about the blockchain. Everyone doesn't have to, have the final answer and then take it, to launch or to IPO or anything like that. You can have a project that's a capability building project where you learn stuff. The major thing is that we can't hack a project that doesn't exist. Okay, and so get thinking real clearly now about something that you'd like to work on, and if you don't have an idea where you can put a title like it's finding innovation, and it would be like a network that's open for innovation, discoverability, and team formation. That would be pretty good. But if you don't have something like that, then look at the other ones that are coming in. And Gabby has done awesome work. We were up super late last night, and we kind of got the infrastructure in place for people to have forums and then go right to little delightful Google material design cards like in CSS and JavaScript and HTML5 and all the goodness right in our page, all data driven the way we always wanted. And so you can see each other's projects, jump on someone's project. It's a great way to learn. It's a great way to make friends, maybe business partners, and it's much more fun to hack together. And so we're about team formation. We can help if you have questions too, and you're someone that maybe is either shy or you're not sure which team, or you just want to talk it through. Also, bring it. Email Jonathan or myself, and also Carolyn and others that are helping with the course. And we all have fairly extensive networks of people that you can see and people that you can't see, who are mentors and other people with projects that not been participating actively, but it could be terrific fits. And in a sense, it doesn't even start until Tuesday. So it's like everything we're doing now is we're skill building, we're getting into the conversation, we're lubricating the creative juices here, and then we roll up our sleeves and we start hacking for real on Tuesday at 2 p.m. So nobody's late. If you don't have your idea till Sunday or Monday or Tuesday at 1 or 1:55 like me, then no problem. Sometimes those are the best ideas. But do start thinking about them and do start sharing them. Okay. So Jonathan, any wonderful last words? Inspire? Yeah, we're not getting you.
Sorry, I was on mute. I love the idea of teaming up where necessary. You all should not feel compelled to have your own venture. The issue there is you folks have to figure out in advance what you think your relative value and commitment to the venture is going to be. Too often, these hacks end up with infighting among the principals. So, if these are early stage issues that we're going to have to work out. If you're partnering up with someone, don't automatically assume it's 50-50. There could be hard feelings down the line. So try to hammer out what you think, and not if you want to use the blockchain, more power to you. But let's try to hammer out some general terms and win-win understanding between the principals in each venture. I don't think we're going to be able to handle 20 ventures, but we could conceivably handle 10 ventures through the course of this month and through the spring.
Yeah, dynamite. Great, thank you, Jonathan. Great. So with that, may I ask before we hang up, does anybody, either our speakers or anybody else have anything that needs to be said while we're live and being archived? Going once.
Hi, Dazza.
Hello. Who's
Yeah,
this?
this is Sabani.
Sabani. Hi, Sabani.
I have a question.
Arizona, I think. Yeah, welcome.
Yeah.
And
I have a question about how do signatures and payment work, like the flow. Is the document completely signed and then the payment has to be done within a specific deadline, or what if the document is signed by all the members and the payment is not done at all? What, like, any...
I'm sorry, just a question. So we're a little confused. Are you talking about like in the world, like the 100?
No, in the smart contracts.
The smart contract. Okay. So who can speak to the question of workflow, approval chains, sequencing?
Yeah.
And when you say the smart contract, so I think one of the things we learned today was that smart contract capabilities are very have a wide berth of configurability of different ways that you could apply them. Some of which would have like 2 signatures, others might have 5, and in different sequences. So that's one thing we learned. So I'm confused about your question. Maybe others are.
You got cut out. Can you repeat that?
Sure. So thanks for the question. I'm going to ask Bill Marino, because I can get my mitts on him. He knows, and he says he knows about smart contracts, to speak a little bit about that, and then we'll wind it up.
Okay.
I actually didn't. I apologize because I was occupied with the Slack.
What are the approval chains? Does like this happen, then that happens? She's asking
Yeah.
a new master student if he wants to hack something.
Awesome.
She wants to kind of start thinking about what would be the conditional logic and like what would I actually do.
Totally. This is such a good question. It was something that I was going to address. But that's so important to think about. So when I was talking about these building blocks of a contract, right? And you have your mutual assent, which is usually expressed, and please, Jonathan, if I'm saying anything incorrectly here, like let me know, because I've been a litigator for a long time, and I had to brush up a lot on contracts over the last 6 months for this stuff. But you have these building blocks, right? Your offer and your acceptance, and like there's a lot of thinking that needs to be done about mapping those onto a smart contract. Like, does the party who is taking the role of the offerer put the smart contract code on the blockchain, and then for some other channel let the person who they intend to accept the contract, let them know it's there? And if so, how does that person accept the contract? Do they send it a string, or do they pay into it? Do they take you know, do they accept by some kind of act, like a payment, as opposed to just voicing acceptance? I mean, this kind of choreography of offering and accepting, no one's really thought about this. At least I haven't seen a lot of writing about it. So I don't necessarily have answers. I'd definitely love to talk about it. I think you're absolutely right to be thinking about it. In fact, everyone today has raised all of the right questions. I think people are, like, all the issues that you're raising are exactly the things that people are thinking about and that I've been thinking about. So kudos to everybody here. Is that kind of an answer?
Yeah, thank you.
Jonathan, you want to chime in?
Well, all I want to say is this world of the blockchain and its legality is not for the faint of heart. It's quite likely that we will see a lot of litigation over the next couple of years, and I wouldn't be really surprised if some of the folks in this room are involved in that litigation. So, frankly, I think you should look at that. Don't look at that as necessarily negative. Look at that as potential for fame and glory and earned media for your projects. But you may want to be a little bit careful about the scope of your projects if, in fact, there are billion-dollar damages connected to it. But I would like to see some of these issues resolved and tested in the courts by us in this room.
Actually, there's one thing I didn't say today, which is the most important thing I can say about Ethereum right now. So if you take nothing away from me being here today, take this away. Always add a way to undo your contract. Always add. There's a couple ways. The most brutal is the suicide global function on Ethereum, which you can check out. Or I'm here and I can show it to you. There's some more nuanced ways. Using modifiers and enums in Solidity is, I think, a more nuanced way to be able to turn off either individual functions or your entire contract. There is a great tutorial that was done on stage at Ethereum DevCon of an escrow contract, and that was done by Fabian. And maybe if Christian or Jeff is here, they can back me up. But I think Fabian did that on stage at DevCon. It's an escrow contract. I'll put the link in the Slack. And that does a great job of using modifiers and enums to kind of create states for all of your functions. That's beautiful. But you have to put that in there. And can I chew up like one more minute?
Yeah, I mean, this is very
This is super important. Because the worst case actually, well, the absolute worst case is you do something like, you know, illegal, and there's no way that anyone can ever pull it off the blockchain. You violate a copyright or something. And right now there's no way to pull that off the Ethereum blockchain, and that's extremely scary if you sit down and think about it, to think about forever. There is one example of something I know of that's on the Ethereum blockchain that is broken, and I'll put the link in the Slack too. It's called Etherpot. It's a lottery contract, and Etherpot was simply miscoded, and it awards the first person who enters the lottery every day the prize. It will be on the blockchain forever. It will be on the Ethereum blockchain forever. Its engineer, who is extremely nice and really smart guy, and who I talked to, he put up a blog post about it. He wrote a really thoughtful blog piece. He put up a warning on his GitHub. But there's not much else you can do, right? That lottery contract will always be there, and if it falls into the wrong hands, people could still be led to it, and it could be exploited, right? So this is like the most important thing that Bill Marino is here to say, is always add a way to turn off your contract. And I can show you those two ways. Or there's multiple ways, and I'll show them to you. The ones that I know of. There's probably a million more.
So is evidence of that problem the undoing of the blockchain? I mean, if that can happen, aren't courts going to look at that and say, this is so fraught with failure, why should we ever allow it?
Yes, it is another question that we all need to be thinking about. I think, I don't want to speak for Jonathan. Jonathan, why don't you say it one more time?
Well, my concern is if this was so easily, this could occur so easily by a sophisticated, well-intentioned programmer, why isn't this inevitable and going to be stuck on Ethereum in perpetuity by other programmers? Why isn't it so fraught with potential failure and weak links that a court would say, this is absurd, we cannot allow contracting on this platform?
Yeah, that's
I've got real good news for you, Matt.
1 second, Jonathan.
Are folks unable to hear me? Is that what's going on?
No, I just wanted to say, I mean, I think you're raising a good question. Part of it is understanding what a blockchain is, right? A blockchain is an immutable database, right? That's the feature. That means that anything that's on there can never be changed. So it can't be changed by somebody with a lot of money, a lot of influence, a lot of power, right? That's the whole point of a blockchain. I do believe, and I guess we'll get into it more in as we go through this, that there are like you were saying, that there are ways to turn off or to disable a contract, right, so that it doesn't keep running. But if it's a thing where I don't know this contract, but it's not like if somebody sends money to it, right? If they send ether to it, then it issues this thing, right? Otherwise, a bad contract or contract we don't want to run anymore, we would not fund it anymore, right? That would be one way for it to not run, or we would supersede it with a better fixed contract and made a pointer to say, go to that one instead. Don't use this one, or however the method's going to be, right?
We did once upon a time have this running through the whole. So I think my response, Al, is like, let's figure this out, and maybe even if Jeff and Christian are still on, which it does not look like they are, right? Okay, so let's figure this out, because I thought there was a chance that like something like the Etherpot, and I have looked at the code, although it's probably been a month, but I was not. I think the function. So you send in gas with function calls, okay? And I think that in a situation like that, a lottery, your participants are sending in their gas. So I think that if you have someone who's out there promoting and sending people, funneling people towards this malicious contract, right? And those people, the hoodwinked people, are sending in.
Bill, Mike, hard to hear you.
Oh, okay, sorry. Did you guys hear any of that? Jonathan? Okay,
I
I'll
heard
summarize
the
real quickly.
beginning. I lost the last couple sentences.
I think that there's a chance if the parties who have been kind of tricked by a malicious contract are sending in the gas that is powering the processing of the functions, then there's no reason that that couldn't continue into forever. In other words, there's not the contract's gas is not dependent on its own kind of gas that would decelerate that process. So let's find this out. That's the number one thing. Like, let's workshop this kind of thing. Let's check this with Jeff and Christian. It's like certainly like the notion of gas in Ethereum is meant to solve the problem of what do you call it? The idea that the Turing kind of.
So gas in Ethereum is used as a few things, right? Mainly it's used as a mitigation against denial of service attacks, right? So you can't, and also so that things don't run forever, right? You can't have an infinite loop, right? So that eventually a program that runs a long time would run out of gas, right, or whatever. And there's a gas limit in a block, right? You can't have unlimited gas, right? Just for people in the room and on the call, we have two things going on, right? You have Ether, which is the currency of the network, and gas is a way to regulate different functions in Ethereum require a different amount of gas to operate, right? So in the virtual machine, an opcode might take 10 gas to run. A hash function might require 20 gas to run, right? So you have to have a minimum amount of gas in order for your thing to run. So yeah, and there's a conversion from ether to gas, right? To say how much your thing should run, or what's the minimum it needs to run.
Thank you. So you've done the rare and wonderful service of posing a design challenge and then beginning to help brainstorm how to solve it. So something I'd like to request. Oh, Carolyn, she who is so organized and chipper. Could you please make sure that this is noted so that we could take action upon it later in the notes, that there's a design challenge that's been posed by Alan, spotted as a design challenge by Bill, and that I want to nominate as something that we do in January, and that I'll raise my hand to work on as well, so that it'll show up thanks to Hacky as a project and a design challenge, and it will be nailed by at least one team. And it is. Did you get more or less what they'd said, or if not, then we can like backfill it from reading from the. And so I'd like to also add a statement. And actually, first of all, anyone that wants to go, you're free to go now. But I'm going to actually, if you don't mind, the dialogue is rich enough so that I would like to continue with the broadcast, because this in particular we'll want to go back and hear again and see how it evolves. And it's part of the education and the mission of MIT to preserve this type of knowledge, because even though we haven't solved it yet, the process is also informative and of value, if nothing else, so we can go back and listen to it and then solve it. Something I wanted to add is Bill and I were noodling last night a little bit about how to collaborate together and what sort of things to work on. I think what we talked about last night with a more sophisticated transactional network contract and private law approach might be one of the directions toward implementing the legal layer of what Al was talking about and what you were talking about. So just a word on that, just so people have heard of it, and then we'll start chucking links around so you can see examples and maybe think about how to architect a system that's appropriate with a blockchain technology. Basically, there's a trick to doing large-scale transactional networks legally that allow things to be solid and reliable and enduring over time, that need to be, so that you can have predictable legal outcomes and more or less unchanging rules, and other things to float. Because if the whole thing is so solid, it's actually, that's called rigid and brittle, and it's going to backfire. If the whole thing's so loosey-goosey, you don't know what you can rely upon, then that's also lacks integrity. You can't have accurate legal predictions, and it's too loose. So one of the ways to do that, I don't know, I'll have to talk to civil engineers and mechanical engineer people, but it's basically to have like two different plates and some lubricant between. So you've got like one that's, say, like more tectonic on the bottom, and you could call those operating rules, Visa International Operating Regulations, weighing it at 1,007 pages. Bill and I we did a review of that last night as a good example of one. I've written a number of these for payment networks and for supply chains, where you've got, usually takes, 100, 200, 300 pages to get it really good. Some newer ones, you could maybe do it in 20, 30, 40 pages. So I did one recently for an identity federation for insurance that was like 20 or 30 pages of the essentials, but it's basically like the big contract with all the terms that everybody agrees to. It's the rules of the road, the community rules. It would be the trading partner agreement for a supply chain that deals with all the issues. And then a thin little contract that people opt into. So in a payment system for Visa, it would be the merchant agreement, which is like a few pages if you have a point of sale device or something like that. If you're a cardholder, any of us with credit cards signed a cardholder agreement. It's like 1 or 2 pages. Acquiring bank, issuing bank, transaction processor. These are roles within a system, and they have a little contract. And the main thing is it says that we agree to abide by the rules as they change from time to time in the big honking umbrella agreement. And then the big honking umbrella agreement is written intelligently to identify sufficiently the things that you want, but then they have words that allow for some drift, but in an ordered, governed, transparent way that allows for change management. So for example, one way that a transaction network could deal with what you're talking about here would be to say something like a reference in the contract to a registry or to a notice system that would indicate if and when a contract has been deemed to be illegal, or when if the party that was standing behind it is out. You know, even though if there's ether left in there, it's maybe in dispute and the assets have been frozen, or if there's been some issue later, or it's been found to be just accidentally coded wrong, like the system that you said. You can check the registry, and you could know that, and you could say that could be a system service where you checked it. So with credit cards, like you used to have to get this multi-volume paper a book of revoked cards or suspended cards, and like theoretically look through them at the gas station before someone drove away. Yeah, right. Now that's all automated. But the same problems with certificate revocation lists and with other ways to suspend or terminate active accounts or authorizations. It's a major design problem, and there are majorly awesome design solutions for it in comparable systems that we can look at, and we could copy and paste. You copy and paste most of my recent stuff, and thanks to the insurance industry, is Creative Commons. Like they're great clients, and there's some government clients for these operating rules have also agreed to allow me to put those rules in the open. You know, some of the best language, unfortunately, I'm familiar with, either written or been involved with, is not available. But enough of the stuff that shows how to do it is available in the open that people here, the great minds and great ideas and innovative like ideas of how to hack a solution by like maybe limiting the fuel source technically, like Al was saying. You can match up that technical set of controls with a legal set of controls and with the set of business controls and practices, where it's known like best practices. If you're going to rely on a contract, you better check this list. And then legally it says if you check the list, then maybe you do not bear the risk of loss if it turned out that it was wrong. And if you didn't check the list, and had you checked the list, you would have known that you didn't win just because you're the first person or something like that, then the risk of loss shifts. So like it's not like impossible to imagine these roles. The thing we have going for us is we live in an open, pluralistic society with a common law that supports and reflects best business practices in our commercial code. And the Uniform Commercial Code and the rich body of adjudicated materials around it has a lot of wisdom in there, and you can take the rules and describe them as technical requirements or as technical design opportunities of stuff you can code. That's what we do all the time with this BLT system, business legal technical system. And it's part of what we can learn. It's part of what I just described. So there's a few more thoughts, but I'd like to propose, Bill, that in view of the design challenge that you spotted from Al, let's hack it. Like I think you and I talked about in the next through January, but then maybe going into the spring semester, taking the model of these operating rules or system rules or so forth, and then with a second tier of opt-in agreements and some basic services that allow for change management over time, and modeling it for blockchain and Ethereum, kind of the two-tier system with some services. If you're up for that, I'd say like that would be one way to begin to explore a potential way to address this fundamental uncertainty that has to be solved for. And hopefully other people can have other cool ideas, and we can measure them and model them and try them and realize, hey, someone's got an even better way than the way we used to do it back in the Middle Ages when I learned to practice law. That's the best we could come up with, but I can't believe that that's the best that anyone could come up with ever. But at least we can model that, and we can have a good start on something that we can measure against. So I wanted to add that, and why don't you bring us home, Bill, as our honored guest?
I don't have anything else to add other than make sure to add code that undoes your contracts. I'll say it one more time. Al, I remembered what I was trying to think of, which is the halting problem. The halting problem. So, which is the halting problem. I'm sure Al will do a way better job explaining this. Yes. You bring us home, Al. Come on.
Okay. I mean, it's Bill has the right to defer to the distinguished gentleman from chair number 7.
I think what you're talking about is not having the Ethereum VM stop in the middle of an instruction, right? That's what. So if you're in the process of running a contract, so the machine doesn't stop like halfway through something, right? I think the term that people want to use is like Ethereum functions are atomic, right? Either they complete fully or the individual instructions are atomic, right? So if you're going through a program and something happens, the network drops out, whatever, it just doesn't stop, and you're in some kind of no man's land with your wallet and your transaction. I think that's what you're referring to. So I think there's some stuff built into the platform to kind of to address that. I've seen a few things on, but I don't have any details or anything. But I know that's a thing that they are aware of.
One more sentence in there. Oh, this thing works. No, it doesn't. Check, check. 1, 2. I think it sounds like it's working. So, uh, we were talking about like the reasons for gas on Ethereum, because it's kind of like, why is there gas, right? It seems like someone's probably making money off it. And Al definitely hit one on the head, which is the denial of service kind of thing. And I thought the other one that Vitalik mentioned at DevCon was this idea of the halting problem, which I thought, and Lord knows I'm not, there's far better computer scientists in the room than me. But I thought the halting problem was this notion that kind of maybe Turing pioneered, which is we can't test how long, we can't test whether code will take infinity to run, right? So there's a chance that someone could pop something on the Ethereum blockchain that when processed by a node would just take infinity to run and just destroy the whole system, right? So as one way to combat that halting problem, I thought was gas. So that's an extremely nerdy way to end today, is the halting problem. I think that's like the punctuation. Okay. Thanks so much for having me. This is totally awesome, and I look forward to working with you guys over the next month and beyond that.
For ceremonial reasons only, I'll say thanks very much. We're going to drop off the live broadcast now, but we will continue to broadcast. So everybody that's participating online, please continue with us until 5 o'clock. We'll do some logistic stuff. But for those of you that are seeing the archive of this, come to MIT.edu, awesome, /LAW/blockchain, and find out what is the then current status of this course and the projects there, and jump on.